Hello and welcome to this webinar from Synowledge on the topic Preparing for E2B or 3. My name is Donal McLaughlin. I am the Marketing Manager for Synowledge and will be your moderator today. Before we begin, just a little housekeeping. This presentation is approximately 30 minutes in length with an additional 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to type them into the chat window at any stage throughout the webinar, and I will put the questions to the team during the Q&A segment. A recording of this webinar along with the slide deck will be distributed over the coming days. This deck will also include additional slides with information from today's Q&A segment. So with that, I will pass you over to our presenters today, Shrikant and Balchandar.
Hello everybody, myself Shrikant here. Good afternoon. This is the brief agenda for today's webinar. We'll be going through the introduction and evolution of R3, key changes of R3 compared to R2. This will be inclusive of identification of medicinal products. And we will be talking about E2B R3 timelines, the R3 adoption roadmap for the leading drug safety systems, ARISg and Argus. And also we'll be having a brief talk on planning ahead for R3, the timelines in order to plan, in order to adhere to R3 compliance, the challenges that might be encountered in this path and how we can address them. And we will also talk on the areas where Synowledge can help in attaining the R3 compliance. Basically, in the last couple of decades, the drug safety reporting has gradually shifted from paper to paperless, or in other words, electronic formats. Electronic submission is cost-effective. It is an alternative to paper-based reporting. Electronic submission is also supported between all stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, it is between stakeholders. It is between all the PV companies, partners, and CROs, affiliates, etc. Electronic submission of adverse event, it utilizes the E2B standard currently. The evolution of E2B has been bulleted as below. It was first released in July 1997. The R1, the first revision of E2B guidelines, was released in November 2000, which was improved and released in 2001, which is the current format, that is R2, and the current compliance to which the drug safety has to comply to, the R3 guidelines, was released in May 2005. Carrying forward, the E2B standards, which is also called as R2, is good in its current format, but over the period of time, the requirements from authorities and all the stakeholders that who are also involved in the reporting have evolved. Hello?
Yes, please continue. We've got some additional people joining at this stage. Thank you.
The basic requirement was there should be a single standard for all the product types that is being regulated by the health authorities such as FDA, and it should be interoperable. The standards should be compliant with the HL7 standards, which is followed by FDA. And the new requirement also requires the R3 reporting standards to be in compliance with IDMP, which we will talk briefly in coming slides. EMA also requires ISO standards, and this needs to be incorporated into their legislation. So R2 was kind of limited. In order to incorporate all these items, R3 has taken picture. In May 2005, the E2B R3 guidelines was released in order to improve the standards as bulleted below. Advancement in pharmacovigilance science, such as IDMP concept, the changes in requirements. As of now, R2 files are just flat files or just XML files. There is a requirement in order to have additional attachments while E2B files are being reported. And the consistency of use has also been incorporated. For example, seriousness as of now is being displayed only at case level. This will be moved to event level. This has been moved to event level in R3. And R3 also enhances the accuracy and the granularity of the information. For example, the date was being reported as a string character in R2, which will be made to look like more like a date in R3. Carrying on from the previous slide, these are the key changes compared to R2 and R3. Single report will be distributed for multiple recipients, and thus this will generate multiple acknowledgements. The challenge over here is single message will contain all the local required data, and R3's biggest changes, it supports attachments apart from XML file. So this can be anything, PDFs or Word documents or image files such as JPEGs. So here the challenge would be the size in these attachments. It cannot be controlled. It can be a huge file sometimes. E2B, R2 are all validated, and it can be validated against set of validations as prescribed by ICH. But the attachments, it cannot be validated. It is entirely at the courtesy of the person whoever is sending the attachments. So this is a challenge in E2B R3. And in R3, the additional data has also been incorporated. For example, drug taken beyond the expiry date, or if it is a counterfeit product, information such as overdose. As of now in R2, if a mother takes the drug, that can be tracked, but in R3, even drugs taken by father will also be tracked in R3 standards. Study and literature data are now moved out of primary source blocks. So this can be repeatable, and this can be consistently documented as well. In the current format of R2, information such as medically confirmed seriousness, country of occurrence, all these are at identification block, and this will be moved to event level. For example, in the current scenario, the case has 5 adverse events. 1 of them is serious, rest 4 of them are non-serious. The case used to be reported as a serious case. In R3, case in its entirety will not be regarded as a seriousness case, but the seriousness information of all the adverse events has to be tabulated one after the other. So from now on, R3 file for this particular context will have all the 5 reactions indicating which reaction is serious and which reactions are non-serious. And in the identification block also, the country is no longer required to be mentioned. It will be moved to primary source blocks, and hence this could be a repetitive information. Currently in R2 standards, the earliest possible age group is neonatal. This will be extended to include fetus in the same code list group. Here we are talking about identification of medicinal products briefly. IDMP basically came into existence because there has been a lot of variations in the naming conventions and licensing identifications. This led to safety data requiring the ability to identify medicinal products universally. So in this perspective, regulations have been drafted, and which resulted in IDMP standards. This was finalized at the end of 2012. Basically, the parameters that are affected due to the introduction of IDMP concepts would be active substance, unit of measure, ingredients, dosage forms, preparation units, presentation units, and administration rules. All these parameters will now be made unique and unambiguous once IDMP has been implemented. So while R3 was developed, R3 standards and IDMP standards are independent of each other, but R3, while it was developed, it has been developed in anticipation of IDMP standards. Certain elements of E2B R3 will display the IDMP terminologies related to the pharmaceutical product libraries. The timelines of E2B R3 and IDMP are not in sync. It might differ. So E2B R3 in its current form has been developed to work as much as possible with IDMP until the complete set of IDMP would be fully available. So once the IDMP has been implemented to the existing drug safety systems, maybe it is ARISg or Argus, the impact would be to modify the existing company product dictionaries at the administrator level, and also the product details in the existing cases, whichever cases are being currently processed, or the archival cases, if the company insists upon, will have to undergo a data modification in order to comply with IDMP standards. Here we are displaying a high-level view of E2B R3 timelines. Basically, R2 will be stopped after 2018. So from 2018 January, only R3 will be accepted. EMA or the European Medical Agency will start accepting the R3 files from Q3 of 2016, and FDA will start accepting R3 from Q2 of 2015. And if you see the latest arrow mark, we have used terminology called BLC, which will be explained a little later. It simply stands for backwards and forwards compatibility. So what it really means is, during this overlapping period between 2015 Q2 to the beginning of 2018, both R2 and R3 formats of files will be in picture, and after end of 2017, only R3 files will be accepted. Planning ahead for R3, we have categorized the main changes in R3 as compared to R2 into 6 categories. The first one is the date formats of all the fields have undergone a facelift in R3 as compared to R2. For example, in the current R2 format, if the date format was something like Jan 1st, 2010, the display would be like 20100101, but in R3 it will be made to appear more like a date, something like 01/01/2010. And the code list mapping in R3 has been improved as compared to R2. There has been new addition of values. There has been new addition of fields in R3 as compared to R2. So once if an R2 file is being imported into an R3 file, this particular feature will not get affected. But however, if an R3 is tried to be imported into R2, there might be no placeholder for the additional fields, and this could lead to loss of data. Continuing further, the other 3 broad categories that we could come up with is the deletion. Some of the fields have been made obsolete in R3, no longer required. So in this scenario, once a file from R2 format is being imported into R3 environment, there will be no placeholders and it will not be imported. The length of few fields have been extended in R3 as compared to R2. So the data will be truncated when an R3 file will be imported into an R2 file. And there has been considerable structural changes. For example, the source information, the event information, seriousness will now be captured at event level rather than at case level, the country of occurrence. All these sources to be exported, country of occurrence. So all these structural changes have been incorporated in R3. And this is one more feature that has been supported in R3. A concept called Null Flavor has been introduced in R3. In certain contexts, some elements in a valid ICSR need not be filled upon, or it can be empty for some specific reasons. In this scenario, the element will simply be available in the E2B file, but it will not contain any data. So this kind of feature has been supported in R3. And in HL7 messaging, it is possible to transmit an empty element to code the element to explain the reason for the lack of data. This has also been incorporated in R3. One classical example that I can think of Null Flavor is in the reported data. Currently, in ARISg, there is a box called "Please do not report name." If that is checked, the data will be masked in the E2B in Medgar SAM's report. But in R3, it can now be controlled at E2B level rather than at drug safety level. So this is a new feature that has been introduced in R3. Going further, how it will impact the current process. So R3 basically introduces a lot of new concepts which requires capturing more data, and the data will be captured more frequently and more finer level of data. So this will require the pharmacovigilance end users to be aware of the new standards and the implication of the same in the day-to-day operations during the R3 safety implementation. Some of the changes will also require adjustment into the current SOPs. For example, R3 now supports attachment of the document while reporting the E2B files. In order to use this feature, the company SOPs might have to be changed. The product information will now be coded in accordance with IDMP. Since there are new codelets and the usage of Null Flavor in R3, the data entry pattern might also have to be redefined. Since the seriousness criteria has now been made available in event level, all the events have to be properly coded. And the lab test is a free repeatable text in R3, which was not in R2. So all the tests that the case will have will need to have the results of tests entered properly. When reporting steady cases, the registration number and the registration country has also been made part of R3. The business unit should be reviewing these kind of changes when R3 is implemented. Since the system is undergoing a change, the data entry pattern is undergoing a change, this might have an effect on the existing line listing reports as well as other form reports such as PSU or COMs. So the review procedures, the SOPs related to medical review will also have to be modified, not just in the perspective of R3, but also in other areas also, since it's the same data which is being used to construct the PSUR and SAM's data. Apart from medical review, there should be some revisions to the procedures that are being followed for quality check and quality analysis. Since R3 is implemented, the SOPs related to quality check and quality assurance will also undergo some changes. And this is the graphical representation of R3, the road ahead for compliance. As indicated at the extreme right, the date by when only R3 will be accepted into the system, or R3 will be only supported is Jan of 2018. So we strongly suggest, we strongly recommend the drug safety systems that are being currently used at your respective sites to be compliant with R3 by July 2016. And in the upper half, as indicated, the time period between July 2016 to 2018 early. Here is a waiver for backward-forward compatibility. We had brief discussion with ARISg Global and Oracle for the leading providers for drug safety systems. As per ARISg Global, the ARISg version, which is 7.2, supposed to be released by early April 2015. It's supposed to be R3 compliant and also Japanese R3 compliant. The 7.3, which is expected to be out by end of 2015, will have IDMP support, and the company product dictionary will also be restructured in accordance to the IDMP. As per Oracle, the Argus 8.0, which is expected to be by first week of April, is R3 compatible. However, we couldn't get much information regarding IDMP support and modification of their product library, how they are going to support IDMP. This information was not available with Oracle as of now.
Great, thank you Srikan and Balchandar for that. There was quite a bit of detail in that presentation, yet we're only scratching the surface of the entire E2B or 3 area in this short webinar. As you'd expect, Synowledge are working with many organizations as they become compliant for E2B or 3. Before I look at that area in particular, I want to give you a very quick overview of Synowledge services. Synowledge specializes in providing drug safety, regulatory affairs, and supporting IT services to a diverse range of pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device companies. In the drug safety area, solutions include full case management, generation of expedited and periodic reports, QPPV services, medical literature review, analysis and trending of cases, and medical call center services, to name a few. In the regular affairs and clinical area, our solutions include global regulatory submissions. This includes medical devices, medicinal products, global clinical trial applications from phase 1 through to phase 5, post-marketing services, which includes writing and submission of variations and annual reports, product compliance and safety and quality updates, and also labeling services, which include translation updates or maintenance. And finally, IT services. We help companies manage and maintain their drug safety and other critical applications. Services include hosting, cloud services, and mobile applications. But specifically in relation to E2B or 3, Synowledge is working closely with many organizations as they become compliant with E2B or 3. On the next slide, we can see that specifically this includes upgrading their safety system to support E2B or 3, and this can involve reorganizing the company product dictionary to adhere to IDMP. As we heard in the presentation, SOPs can be affected, so we work with organizations to get these up to date. These new processes may also affect work manuals and the PV business continuity plan. These are all areas where Synowledge can help. We also conduct user training for new changes and validate the new system. So during the presentation, Srikan also spoke about backwards-forwards compatibility. We provide a plugin to exchange the cases between R2 and R3 and vice versa. So Synowledge has practical and proven experience working with organizations from across the life science sector as they become compliant with E2B R3. And if there's anything that Synowledge can help your organization with, please do let us know. We'd love to hear from you and to discuss your requirements. So at this point, we're going to move to the Q&A section. I am just going to ensure that my colleagues are unmuted so that they can answer your questions. There's much more detail that we could go into, obviously, but in the interest of time, we'll proceed just to the Q&A. We've had a few questions during the webinar, and I can see a few more arriving in as I speak. So just to let you know, we'll answer as many questions as we can at this point. However, if we run out of time or if there's questions submitted after the event, we will respond directly via email or telephone. Please do let us know what you prefer. So the first question that I've got in is, we use ARISg. If I want to be compliant with E2B or 3, when should I start the upgrade project?
Okay. As indicated in one of the slide over here in ICSRs Road to Compliance, we strongly recommend the drug safety systems to be fully R3 compliant as early as possible, that is July 2016. And in order to go with any drug safety system live, we can plan ahead 1 year in advance. So if the customers start planning for R3 compliant by 2016, they probably will be R3 specific by July 2016. So if they start planning by June 2016, should be, that should be the fine thing.
Okay, thank you. Question 2. Please, can you go into a little bit more detail on the changes of format for each category code? I believe that's relating to the planning ahead for R3 section of the presentation.
Okay, I assume this is the slides wherein the customer has raised the point. We have gone through all the changes between R2 and R3 extensively, and we have categorized these changes into 6 possible categories. But we have the Excel sheet which details all the changes, and we can provide this particular file to whoever is interested in order to understand all the changes between R2 and R3.
Great, thank you. Make sure to get that spreadsheet to you. Thank you for that question. Next question. Restructuring company product data in accordance with IDMP. Should this be done along with R3? We recommend doing the same. IDMP and R3, so that the systems are very much compliant with whatever the market demands. But since R3 and IDMP standards are not in sync, if not with R3, at least by 2018, early 2018, the systems should be IDMP compliant. We suggest to be R3 compliant by July 2016. It's well and good if it is also IDMP compliant. But if not by July 2016, then latest by end of 2017 or early 2018. Okay, I hope that answers your question. The next question is quite a long one, so bear with me. If R3 files are converted to R2 in the BFC, in the backwards forwards compatibility window, upon going live with R3, will the old cases need to be re-imported into the system? So let me repeat that again. If R3 files are converted to R2 in the backwards forwards compatibility window, upon going live with R3, will the old cases need to be re-imported into the system?
This question is a little contextual. Since the authorities themselves have allowed the window to be able to downgrade from R3 to R2, in all possibilities, it might not be required, and also it depends on the customer's interest. If they have saved all those R3 files which are converted to R2 files, probably they can be used again to enhance the existing data. But again, this is a very contextual question. It depends on the authority recommendation and the interest of the customer. However, even if they don't do, they'll be good.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm conscious of time. We're coming up on our 30-minute stop, so I'm going to call an end to the Q&A section at this point. If you've got any additional questions that you would like answered, please do send them through, and we will respond within 24 hours. So thank you to everyone for registering for this event and for sending through your questions. We will distribute a recording of the presentation over the coming days. If you have any other questions, or you would like a one-on-one conversation with any of the team from today or any other Synowledge expert, please do feel free to get in contact with your local Synowledge office. Numbers are on screen, but you can also find us at www.synowledge.com, or please feel free to email us at info@synowledge.com. Once again, thank you again for joining today. Bye for now.